Yeah, I mean, we've seen some stuff recently in the industry of people saying Muc-Off just a marketing business, which we love to hear that because it's laughable. I mean, we're absolutely the opposite. I mean, there's more people in our R&D team than in our marketing team. You know, we invest, everything is about the product. So we are really proud and we love our product. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's good. Cool.
My first mic up moment. I hate being on camera, I hate doing this, but there's a lot to say, so it's worth doing. And breathe.
Just tell us a little bit about where you kind of like came from within the world of cycling.
Yeah, so I was, I kind of grew up motocrossing, but I was really ill, I had really bad asthma, so I struggled a bit in motocross. Particularly as I grew up to kind of 85cc, I was just like, I couldn't make that step. So, and mountain, that was kind of early 90s, mountain biking was just becoming like really hot. And my dad kind of thought it'd be a good idea to help my breathing and my fitness is to get a mountain bike. Funny enough, my dad, who was, a motorcycle racer in the 60s, built his own bikes, he was a real innovator. He had a motorcycle luggage business he'd sold, and then he got into an advertising business, which he didn't really enjoy, and sold that. And so we went on this family holiday anyway. We were looking for a replacement bike. I was looking for a Trek. I can't remember how old I must have been. I must have been like 13 or something, but I remember calling all the dealerships in the hotel room and learning that they don't say aluminium in America, they say aluminum. So I'm like, hey, do you have an aluminum Trek? And we couldn't find a Trek dealer anywhere in Florida. We were at Disneyland, so there's nothing around. But we stumbled across a dealer. It was a Klein dealer. And it was, weirdly, I remember, it was like they sold lawnmowers as well. But I remember seeing the Klein logo and I was like, oh my God, I've seen that brand in MBUK. I can't believe this. And they had a Klein Pinnacle in stock. And it was just the most insane thing ever. It's just the most beautiful thing. My dad fell in love with it, oversized aluminium, polished weld. It was just internal cable routing. And this is like 1990. So we actually ended up buying it and a whole Shimano group set, an XT group set, and brought it all back in our hand luggage, and with the idea that we'd sell it. Certainly wasn't for me, but over time I convinced my dad to have it, and I was riding around this Klein, but it had horrible chrome ollie forks on it, which just did not work with an oversized aluminium frame. So Dad was like, why doesn't a mountain bike have a twin crown fork like a motorbike? It's like paddling a canoe with one hand as opposed to two, So he actually invented a twin crown fork for mountain biking, patented that. He was a real innovator. Not a trained engineer, but he was just amazing. With his hands building, he would always be building amazing things and innovations. When he married my mum, he promised, he'd had a massive accident at Brands Hatch and taken a lot of his skin off his face and smashed his teeth out, and I've got a great photo of him with Sammy Miller at the time. I must dig it out and find it, but it's a great photo after that crash, horrendous, but he's with Sammy Miller, who he was very close with, and I think one of those teeth is somewhere at a brand. I can't remember which corner it is, but it's there somewhere in the grass. But I never saw him circuit racing, but he got into enduro off-road. So I remember I had a little PW50. I remember just going around the pits when my dad was racing enduro, which was amazing. So I kind of always grew up around racing, and we always went to F1 Grand Prix and all the MotoGP, which back then was just Grand Prix, for the 500s, and just growing up with the two strokes and seeing Kenny Roberts and all that era was just amazing. So that was really special. So my whole childhood was motorbikes predominantly, and motorsport, and then I was the one that the first cyclist in the family, really. I think I grew up knowing the art of the possible. Anything's possible if you put your mind to it. And Dad didn't know much about cycling, but he understood engineering and motorcycle racing, and suddenly I was riding around on a handmade set of twin crown forks, which was amazing. I was product testing and jumping them and breaking bits, and so I guess very early on I was product testing at 13, 14 years old, breaking handlebars and stuff like that, and just rolling over and laughing about it and just carrying on. So that kind of was the background I think I grew up with. That really was my kind of whole childhood, really. This is now kind of like 2012, 2013. Team Sky were just like killing it, winning everything. They were just like, wow, I was really in awe of what they did in their program and their, Dave Brailsford with the marginal gains and all of that side. Me as a kind of guy obsessed with performance was like, this guy, Dave Brailsford was like a hero to me. It was like, this is just fantastic, nothing left on the table, every detail, gone after. So I tried to get an introduction to Team Sky, and I couldn't get an introduction. It was actually through a friend of mine in TV, Anthony McCrossan. He managed to find me a contact of a guy called Carsten, who was kind of head of operations and a really senior guy at the team. So I managed to get a call with Carsten, and I remember it well because I just had a big crash on my motocross bike and snapped my Achilles and broken my ankle. So I was hobbling around on crutches in an air boot, and I got hold of Carsten, and he was like, well, I've not really heard of Muc-Off, but we're super busy. But if you want to see me, you can come out this weekend at the Amstel Gold event. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in an air boot, I can't drive. So I was like, okay, I thought I can't miss this opportunity. So I just got in my van and drove across, and I got the team hotel details and sort of hobbled into reception and waited for Carsten. And when he came down and saw me, he was like, oh shit, like you're on crutches, you don't tell me you come over like that just to see me. And I was like, yeah, I've just come over to see you. So it kind of broke the ice, and we kind of talked at length. And his problem with, he was open to new development in lube, but he said, you're going to tell me your lube's great because it's your business, but we talk in data. We talk in aero, we talk in efficiencies, we have data for everything, nutrition. We don't have data on lube, so I need some data.
I think, to be honest, like back then, everyone was claiming they had the best oil, grease, whatever, but no one could actually prove it. And that was one of the things I said to Muc-Off or Alex back then, was that, we need facts. There must be ways we can quantify this, that we can actually test and get some facts. And yeah, Muc-Off invested a lot of money in all the testing equipment, and that was really the start of that. And obviously with the results, you can go back and look, is this actually better than what we had before if we add this, or the chemistry, that's all. We talked a lot about testing wet, testing dry conditions, and I think we've seen a lot of those products coming out for different types of environment, and that has always been really successful. So
I was like, Christ, this is like scary. We're a small little business, and we need to build dynamometers and get data, which I thought makes all the sense in the world, because it actually takes the guesswork out of in-house development. You can only go so far with real world testing, but to actually have repeatable data that you can say that lube is better than that lube at wear or coefficient of friction or durability or contamination is vital. So we set about doing that, but we didn't have any money and no spare money. So we went to Santander, our bank, and said, guys, we've got this opportunity, we want to grow, road cycling we're really excited about, huge, opportunity, but we need your support. And they put us into their, I think, a growth fund, which gave us the fund which we basically spent all on the Team Sky deal and building dynamometers, and that was in itself a huge project to work out how do you build drive chain, dynamometers, which we did, and we actually went on to win engineering awards for those, which we're really proud of. Some of our proudest kind of medal cabinet pieces are those engineering awards. We then started talking in data, so we could then tell the teams and the mechanics which lube performs in different ways, which they really embraced. So 2014 was our kind of launch. Throughout the late 2013, we were developing different formulas, and we were experimenting lots with kind of hot waxes at that point and doing stuff there. And we were treating Chris Froome's change with hot waxes and developing things like that. But actually, what we found in 2014, the riders they weren't interested in waxes because they were used to, you know, for years they'd had really tacky, thick oils. So to try and convert them to a wax was really, really hard because they were like, there's no lube on my chain. We're like, no, there is. Honestly, the important part of the chain is lubed. We decided, you know, we kept developing wax in the background, but ultimately we decided to make our oil-based lubes super efficient, and we came out with our hydrodynamic and ultimately our ludicrous AF, which we're super proud of, you know, all developed in-house, super sustainable formula, and ultra fast. And great in all weathers. But we kept going with our wax development, and we just saw a lot of hockey stick kind of activity going on our dyno where they're really efficient for a short amount of time, but any change in temperature, humidity, weather, the performance can fall off a cliff. And we just felt for pro road cycling that was just not, and you know, until we could outdeveloped the characteristics of waxes that we were seeing and testing competitors that we'd see exactly the same kind of profile from, we kept driving our oil base to give that, you know, one thing a team needs is repeatable performance, whatever the weather, and that was very much our program. We've been developing for years, ever since, you know, waxes have always been of interest to us, but in the last 4 years particularly, we've really knuckled down and doubled down on our R&D, which has now grown into tribology. You know, we've put everything we've got in terms of the profit of the businesses into growing Muc-Off and growing, you know, innovation and growing what we're doing. So we're really proud of our in-house testing. It gives us such an edge to be able to test in-house and rapidly see differences between formulations with critically repeatable testing. So we're really proud of what we've created there, and to see, you know, a team with, you know, full-time tribologists and chemists and data engineers is super. I'm really proud of that.
But have you ever got to a point whereby you've thought, I've spent the money and I've just burnt it, and I should never have built this R&D facility?